Hello, America. I want to talk to you tonight. I had a choice to make yesterday of coming to you and trying to find a policeman to help with what came to us over the weekend. And I realized we're darn near out of policemen. I don't really necessarily trust Eric Holder. I don't trust the administration. I don't trust Congress. I don't know who to bring this to except you. That's why I'm bringing this to you tonight. I'm going to play some audio for you in a moment that we broke this morning on my radio program and my website. It is a recording of a speech given over the weekend at Pace University. It was given by a prominent labor leader, and it was given to a very select group of other prominent labor, progressive, and community leaders. I believe what you are about to hear is nothing short of a plan to commit economic terrorism. Now, I want to define that. Economic terrorism, set forth by the blessed Geneva Center for Security Policy. It is this: varied, coordinated, and sophisticated or massive destabilizing actions in order to disrupt the economic and financial stability of a state, a group of states, or a society, such as market-oriented Western societies, for ideological or religious motives. Got it? That's how the Globe defines economic terrorism. Now, has there been any case of domestic economic terrorism? Yes, believe it or not. Surprisingly, the closest case we have to it happened just recently. In fact, the jury decided last Friday. They judged against Bernard von Nothaus. He is 67 years old. He was convicted by a federal jury of, quote, conspiracy under the United States and faces a prison sentence of 15 years. Now, what did he do? Well, he made coins. He made these. They're Liberty dollars. They look like U.S. dollars, don't they? Well, I actually interviewed this guy when I was on the other network. And I remember talking to him, and I thought, okay, I kind of agree with you on the Fed thing, but what you're doing here kind of sounds illegal. He swore he was doing nothing wrong. Well, in the end, it looks like I was right. He was just convicted Friday of making coins that resemble our United States coins, possessing them, and trying to use them as currency. He had over 7 million in Liberty dollars in circulation. Well, this guy was misguided. But he wasn't trying to bring down the United States, at least from what he told me. He believed the Fed was destroying the dollar. And really? That's a hard stretch, isn't it? This guy was creating what the government said was currency. And he said it was going to help. No. Good idea? No, no. But his goal was not the destruction of the U.S. dollar. Now, listen to the U.S. attorney prosecuting the case. This is, remember, from Eric Holder's DOJ. Quote, attempts to undermine the legitimate currency of this country are simply a unique form of domestic terrorism. But she went a step further. She also said, while these forms of anti-government activities do not involve violence, they are every bit as insidious and represent a clear and present danger to the economic stability of this country. You have it? Let's be clear. This is Eric Holder's DOJ. The attorneys representing the United States against the coin guy in North Carolina last Friday, they convicted him. They believe attacks affecting the economic stability of America are akin to domestic terrorism and a clear and present danger to the economic stability of this country. You have it? Every bit as insidious as violent attacks on the country. So we know there's zero tolerance with the DOJ. And the coin guy is facing 15 years in prison. Remember what we're talking about. A guy who most people have never even heard of. He has certainly never graced the White House. And come on, really? You think he has a chance to actually collapse the monetary system? Really? Okay. Zero tolerance. Again, unique form of domestic terrorism, every bit as insidious and a clear and present danger to the economic stability of this country. So that's how we define, under Eric Holder's DOJ, domestic economic terrorism in this country. Now, the audio tape that I'm about to play is from the left's forum, the left forum, right here. It is a conference that happened at Pace University here in New York City. Well, everybody was there, including the Fox cameras, but apparently other people also were recording where Fox couldn't record. Frances Fox Piven, the architect of the overwhelm the system theory, she was there, tells me that here Frances Fox Piven is just an innocent, kind grandmother. But she seems to take frequent breaks from all of the quilting and cookie baking to write in places like The Nation or Speak Here about the wonderful violent uprisings in Europe, and go to places to speak, like Pace University, to the leaders of the labor movement. Now, maybe she was just trying to teach them how to bake cookies, although we didn't see any of that. I'm not sure. But Frances Fox Piven's philosophy was everywhere. In fact, here is one of the panelists speaking about her philosophy. Listen carefully.
You're talking about why unions are so invested because of their pension plans and why ungovernability, as Frances Fox Piven and Cloward taught us, you know, poor people's movements are successful when they create conditions of ungovernability, and then you win victories.
Okay, so create conditions of ungovernability. What does that mean? Well, you want to destabilize. You want to get rid of the stabilization, because if everything's stable, you can govern. It's almost like, hey, wait a minute. They'll work together to overturn stability because they're against capitalism and Israel. And it will spread, and they will begin to destabilize Europe and the rest of the world. So destabilization, or make it ungovernable. It's kind of like what happened in Greece, Egypt, Madison. Now let me play the audio for you. Again, I believe nothing short of people planning an economic terrorist attack on our country this May. And we just heard from the U.S. Attorney what he believes it is. The coin guy, at the very least, quote, conspiracy against America, end quote. A form of clear and present danger to the economic stability of this country. You listen to this tape and tell me if that doesn't fit this. His name, the guy you're about to hear, is Steven Lerner. He is a former top official at SEIU who left, apparently, when Andy Stern left. Now, I have to say apparently because we can't verify this. We made no less than 6 calls to SEIU. We talked to the Media Relations Department, sent multiple emails. They will not verify if Steven Lerner currently works at SEIU. Now, I've worked at a lot of companies. Have you guys worked at companies before? I mean, you just look in the company handbook and go, nope, he's no longer with us. It's about the simplest question we have tonight. The questions SEIU only get harder from here. He was introduced as SEIU when he spoke this weekend at the Left Forum. He was the director of SEIU's Banking and Finance campaign. Important to remember. He was the person on the Wall Street reform for SEIU. So he would go to the Treasury Department and meet on Wall Street reform. He is also the guy responsible for the video that we showed you here, the protest on the lawns. Do you remember when they started going to people's houses? Remember that? When SEIU rent-a-thugs stormed a bank executive's private property and trapped a young child who was home alone. He also spearheaded the Justice for Janitors campaign that have led protests all across the country. In one city, protesters entered the busiest intersections in Houston and handcuffed themselves in a circle to trash cans and dumping trash in intersections in order to disrupt traffic. Here's what he told other labor leaders this weekend. Listen to his plan. Listen carefully. Here's the plan to destroy America.
Unions are almost dead. We cannot survive doing what we do. But the simple fact of the matter is community organizations are almost dead also. And I think if you think about what we need to do, it may give us some direction, which is essentially what the folks that are in charge, you know, the big banks and everything, what they want is stability. There are actually extraordinary things that we could do right now that would start to destabilize the folks that are in power and start to rebuild a movement.
Okay. Remember, we just learned the United States government has a zero-tolerance policy for those who pose an economic threat to the economic stability of the nation. They just busted the guy printing up his own coins, yet here he is stating at an open conference that unions are almost dead, as are community organizations, and they therefore must destabilize those in power, the banks. He's now going to outline a plan on how to collapse our government and our nation's financial system.
For example, 10% of homeowners, going back to where you started, who are a quarter of all people who own a home are underwater, right? Their home is worth, they're paying more for it than it's worth. 10% of those people are now in strategic default, meaning they're refusing to pay, but they're staying in their home. That's totally spontaneous, right? They figured out it takes a year to kick me out of my home because more foreclosures backed up. I'm going to stay, I won't pay. It's just what business does. It's a good business decision. If you could double that number, you would make banks, put banks on the edge of insolvency again. What would happen if we could organize homeowners en masse to do a mortgage strike? To say, if we get 500,000 people to agree, we'll agree we won't pay our mortgages. It would literally cause a new financial crisis for the banks, not for us. We would be doing quite well because we wouldn't be paying.
Okay. Using mass mortgage strike, and he also goes into student loans, he hopes to create a new financial crisis. Think of this. The whole reason that we did TARP, and is there anybody here that thinks it was a great idea to do TARP? The whole reason we did TARP and the stimulus package and the health care bill was to bring us back from the brink. And here he is, a man who has been to the White House, who is now detailing, we haven't gotten to it yet, a plan to push our financial institutions back to the brink. So every dollar that we have given, every dollar that has been given to the government, every dollar that has been given to banks and institutions through TARP will be wasted. Now, this is not just a pie in the sky thinking, hey, maybe somebody would try that this sometime. No, no. Listen carefully, because he talks about, he's not going to give a lot of details because he's afraid there might be police in the audience. There wasn't. We might have been there. It's in the planning phase, and I believe it's deeper than that. I want you to listen to, I think uncut, it's like 25 minutes. You have to hear the entire tape at glennbeck.com. Your hair will fall out. Listen to his strategy now.
The folks that control this country care about one thing: how the stock market does, how the bond market does, and what the bonuses is. So I think we need to have a very simple strategy. How do we bring down the stock market? How do we bring down their bonuses? How do we interfere with their ability to be rich? And if we don't do, and that means you have to politically isolate them, economically isolate them, and disrupt them.
Okay, here he is beginning to conspire to bring down the stock market. But he needs a villain for the story. Well, they just picked one. Play the tape.
A bunch of us around the country think about who would be a really good company to hate. We decided that would be J.P. Chase, based here in New York. So what we're looking at is in the first week of May, can we get enough people together, we're starting now, to really have a week of action in New York with the goal of vote. I don't want to give any details because I don't know which police agents are in the room, but the goal would be that we would roll out of New York the first week in May.
So here are the facts. We have an influential labor leader with ties. He may still be working at SEIU. We cannot get SEIU to verify. We think he's no longer with them. Ties to SEIU. He has had at least 4 White House visits. Steven Lerner has. We're assuming it's the same guy. We cannot get anyone at the White House to verify either today. Visits to the U.S. Treasury. We have one in December of 2010. He met with Elizabeth Warren. Remember, she takes care of all the little banks. Visits to the U.S. Treasury. This has been verified. They're targeting J.P. Morgan Chase. They want to disrupt New York City, and you will see on the tape, the whole tape, that he talks about 10 other states as well. He wants to create a mortgage strike. Plus, he talks on the longer tape of also getting students to not pay their student bills back to trigger a financial crisis. He wants to crash the New York Stock Exchange and create instability. A unique form of domestic terrorism, a clear and present danger to the economic stability of the country. You decide. You decide.